Good afternoon and a happy, I hope, 2025 New Year to everyone. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, so apologies for that. I've done a lot of procrastinating. I've sat down, or I've been sitting or doing something on a million occasion and thought, I should do a video. I should. And it's one of those reasons I don't like the word should, is because, it implies guilt in that you're not doing the things that you could be doing. Should kind of carries these kind of negative connotations to it. But anyway, I didn't do one until now. So I thought I'd take today as an opportunity to sit down and just kind of talk through a lot of the things that have happened since the last time I did one of these, which I'm aware, even with my poor grasp of time, I am aware that it's been a number of weeks since I did one. So I'm obviously, as I said before, I'm on my titration journey at the moment, although it feels like it might be coming towards the end of titration and moving into shared care, which is where the provider kind of starts working with your GP, and they kind of take over the I think it's basically the supply of medication. I have felt a little bit pushed at times to move on to that, and I have stood firm and gone back to the provider and said, look, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel that I've got to a place on the medication that I feel comfortable. There's too many other factors going on, or there's too many things going on with the medication that I'm unsure of, so I'm not ready to move on to that yet. But I'm still sitting on 60 I want to say milligrams. I still haven't looked at what the mg stood for. I think I said that in the last video. I will do it after this. I'm still on the 60 milligrams, and I have been for at least a couple of months now, and for the most part it's been pretty good. There's been a couple of moments where I didn't feel like I was getting the benefit of it. I was still struggling. I was struggling to focus, struggling to do certain things. There was a point, I don't know, about 6, 7, maybe 8 weeks ago, that I actually got really quite low. Not depressed low, but my mood was very low. And I didn't know if that was because of the medication. I didn't know if I needed to go up, go down, change it. I didn't know if it was the situation I was in at the time. I had other stresses going on in my life that can impact us in many ways. And when it's these things particularly stressful, people with ADHD, us neurodivergence, that these things can tend to hit us a lot harder, and it's then reflected in our mood. So what I did, because this mood was, I don't know, it had been going on for over a week, I decided that I would take some action. So I reached out to an employee assistance program that I'm part of, and asked for some counselling. I thought, that might be what I needed. Or in part, maybe I didn't know what I needed, but it felt as good a place to start as any. So I contacted them and had a really good conversation with the first person I spoke to. And they were lovely. They were really, really lovely, very understanding, very patient. They listened to me, listened to my history, my problems with mental health that I've had, the diagnosis of ADHD, the medication, there's a lot, and even just talking through it kind of helped me identify that, do you know what, there's a lot of things going on, and it might just be that's it, that I just feel a bit overwhelmed at the moment, and that's having a knock-on effect in terms of my mood. But anyway, I had this lovely chat with her. She gave me 2 options. One was to go and do some CBT, which was ADHD specific, because I said, I kind of want some help with the ADHD, so I thought that might be where I needed to focus on. So yeah, the CBT was, so that's cognitive behavioural therapy, and what that does, it's a form of therapy that looks at how you interpret, react, respond to situations of the past. It's more based on how you are now, or kind of future things, like worries, anxiety, and helps you reframe it. Look at things in a different way. Try and get you to look at things in a different way, and then by looking at things in a different way, you can then respond in a different way or react in a different way. The other option that I was given was counselling, and she said, well, this one isn't ADHD specific. It's just you get counselling. You might have somebody, you might be assigned a counsellor who has ADHD or neurodiversity awareness or experience, but it's not guaranteed. So initially I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe the CBT's the thing for me. I had done CBT before, but I didn't have a very good experience on it. That was when I was struggling with anxiety and depression, and I'd been sent along there by my GP, a service called Time to Talk. Now, CBT works well, or works best, when it's individual, when it's one-on-one. But what I was given, I think it might have been around COVID time, and ended up with like 12 of us on a Zoom call, being given homework. And at that time I didn't know I had ADHD, and I struggled to do the homework part of it, unsurprisingly. And so I didn't, I kind of have a bit of a negative view over the effectiveness of CBT. But anyway, I digress. So, the conversation was, right, okay, well, let's look at the CBT option. But you need to have like a clinical assessment first, just to check that, where you are, how you are, that kind of stuff. And I didn't have time to do it then. I had another appointment I had to go to. And then in true ADHD style, I kind of put it off. I didn't get around to phoning them back for a week or 2. And so by the time I did call them back, my mood had lifted a little bit. And I had a conversation with another person at the assistance program. Again, very lovely lady. And the conversation we had, she was a bit more explanatory in terms of what the CBT would be about. It turns out that was more about how to live day to day. So how to organise yourself, how to, be more effective, how to, that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, I know all of that. It's not that I need help with. It's all the trauma that's been associated with living a life with undiagnosed ADHD. So in the end, we decided on counselling. So I was offered 6 sessions of counselling. So I started that actually came through very quickly, my first appointment. And funny enough, I went along, and the first session, which are often, first sessions of any counselling or anything like this, is often spent filling in forms and checking where you are on the kind of like a mental health scale. But we did start to talk about things, and interestingly, the lady who I'm assigned to, she seemed to focus very heavily on my work, which wasn't really what I wanted to be there to talk about. So I was a bit conflicted, but I thought, okay, we'll give it another go. Well, I'll go to the next session, see how we go. And I went to the next session, and again, it seemed to be kind of focused on work. And I left thinking, oh, this isn't what I want. This isn't right. She's not listening to me, or what, she's not letting me, or she's not hearing what I'm trying to say to her. But what happened was, as I was walking home, I was thinking about what we'd spoken about, and a lot of it was about, what are the parts of my job that I like? What are the bits that I don't like? Where do I like to work? What works for me in terms of my environment when I'm working? And it really got me thinking that actually, do you know what? That is a big part of why I've struggled so much in life. And what I think a lot of undiagnosed ADHDers struggle with is that we're put in these, we take on jobs because, hey, we've all got work, we've all got mortgages to pay. But because we've had such a poor experience in education, or a lot of us do, we come out of it with a kind of low self-esteem, low confidence, not feeling good enough. And I realised that I've been taking on jobs that, didn't suit me. They weren't right for my skill set, or for, what, made me feel good about doing the job. And I don't mean to sound, I don't know what the word is, like everybody should have a job that they just love and can't wait to go to, because I know, it's not realistic. But I do think that, whatever you choose to do, it should align with your values. And that got me onto, well, what are my values? And sort of thinking through all the jobs I've done, and how conflicted I felt in them, I realised that a big part of the problem was that I wasn't serving a purpose, not a purpose that meant something to me. A lot of jobs, particularly in today's world, are kind of very process driven, which means there's not much room for creativity. There's a lot of, creating reports and these, deadlines, and kind of you almost feel just like a small cog in the part of a big machine. So you can't see the whole process, or the whole, from start to end, what's the final product. You don't get to see it. So it can feel that there's no meaning to what you're doing. And as somebody who's with ADHD, that is really important. We're very feeling people. And yes, I'm making sweeping generalizations here, but I do, so many of the people I've spoken to and read about and listened to talk this way. They relate very similar feelings or experiences. And so when we're in those environments, we're essentially, we're not meeting our needs. We have a need for creativity. We need an element of freedom in what we do. It's, there is a like a catch-22 of, we need routine, but we hate routine. We need structure, but we hate structure. But I do think that you can find a happy medium there. But that's looking back, I could see that wasn't really available in a lot of things I was doing. So so this train of thought got me thinking into, right, well, what are my values? And trying to understand what are the most important things to me. That's what we talk about when we talk about values. It's like, what are the things that you put above everything else? What's your kind of reason for getting up in the morning? What's your almost like your center point? And, looking through mine, it was, I made a list, did an exercise just the other day, in fact, of like, write down, your top 10 values. And the two that came out for me was family and well-being. And it was interesting because they weren't the ones that I thought it would be. You know, I mean, obviously family is very important to me. But when we I didn't see it as a value, whereas, you know, it is. And so then you start looking at, right, those are my values. And then, you know, wanting to improve my self-esteem and confidence, it was suggested that I make a list of my skills and strengths. And again, that's always something that I struggled with, because often when you're asked to do this, you're like put on the spot. It's like, write down or tell me what your strengths and skills are. You know, in that instance, I'll always go blank. But what I managed to do was, I had a little notebook, and I no ego involved here, but I filled 3 pages of it, you know, in 10 minutes. And I was really kind of quite surprised by it. And sort of looking through them all, a lot of them I identified, people could, you know, generally would describe them as soft skills. So by that I mean things like kindness, empathy, compassion, curiosity, you know, those kind of things. Where in the working world, if you sort of said, oh, those are my strengths, my skills, you would, you know, you're going to be directed towards working in a hospital or a care home or something like that. And that's not me. That's not what I want to do. I think they're very noble professions, but it's not me. And in the corporate world, it's these, you know, there's the strong skills that are looked for. You know, people who are able to, you know, I guess plan, you know, identify how to make money, you know, that kind of thing. You know, the best way, productivity, or, you know, they're skilled in, you know, whether they be, you know, skilled in architecture or being a lawyer or, you know, understanding the legal jargon, you know, those kind of things. And then what happens is with the soft skills, we tend to undervalue them because to people like me, and, you know, somebody else was the one who highlighted this to me, is to people like me, those things come very easily. And when something comes easily to you, you don't necessarily value it. You don't see it as a skill because you don't have to put effort into it. It's just something that you can do. And that's not the right way to look at it. You know, these things, these skills, these strengths are so important. And, you know, you could say, you look at the world today and what are the things they're missing? It's the soft skills, it's the empathy, the understanding, the acceptance, curiosity. And so there is real value to these things. And so as I started, you know, looking through all these things, it really started to build a foundation on, you know, helping me identify who I am and what's important to me. And, you know, when you've masked your entire life, and when I say masked, it's where you've taken on almost like, well, one is you put on a front because you don't want people to realise that you're not the same as them. Because if they identify that you're not the same as them, then they can use that against you, or, you know, point out that it's a weakness. And we all know that, you know, in this world, if you have a weakness, weaknesses can be manipulated or attacked. So we built this mask up because we don't want people to see that part of us. The other part of masking is that we look at everybody around us and we build big parts of ourselves on that. So, you know, I've sat and I've listened to music that, you know, friends like, and so in my head I was like, well, my friends like that, so I must like that, or else they won't like me. So I've listened to music, and you know, sitting back now, I can go, do you know what? I don't actually like that music. It doesn't appeal to me. I actually like this genre, and, you know, if you're going to judge me on that, then, you know, that's on you. But you know, as neurodivergent as ADHD is, we take these big chunks of other people and kind of attach them to this this mask that we wear. And having done that for, 30, 35 plus years, it's very difficult to then, having got the diagnosis of ADHD and doing the work and understanding that, a lot of what we're doing is masking, and then you want to try and start to disassemble that mask to find the real you. That's actually a really hard thing to do. And it can take a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort, some of it quite emotional. But it's really important to do, because once you find out who you are, what you like, what's important to you, you can then start laying the foundations for, your future life. And so that's the other thing that I've done in this time. Having done all that, I haven't finished the counselling yet. I'm still partway through it. I've taken this break over Christmas and New Year's. So I started the counselling thing, but I also had somebody come up to me, somebody who I met through the work I do, through the charity. And he's training to be an ADHD coach. And he said, "Oh, I've seen your videos, and I really like what you're doing and can relate to it." And he offered me some free coaching, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, no problem. It's free coaching. I've not got anything to lose." And I think coaching is actually a really valuable thing if you get the opportunity to do it, if you can afford to do it, because it can, it can be costly, but it's one of those things that you should really look at it as an investment in yourself, because it helps you get to the hub of, or the core of the problem, or the core of the issue, or the core of what you're looking for, so much quicker than just doing it by yourself. And the thing with coaching is it's interactive. It's a two-way thing, where there's there's no hierarchy in it. Not if it's done properly. A good coach is there to is there to draw the answers out of you, in the same way as certain types of counselling, like people-centered counselling, is there to help you find your answers, because they're in here, they're in here. But having a coach helps you find those things and identify what's important to you, identify where you currently are in terms of different elements of your life, whether it be relationships, finances, health, social life, career, whatever. They find out where that element sits in terms of importance to you. So you might say, well, family's is the most important thing. So I put a rating of 10 out of 10 on that. That's the most important thing to me. But I feel that at the moment, I'm probably at about a 5. 5 out of 10 is where my satisfaction sits with them, in terms of the relationship. Maybe with finance, finance is really important because it gives us security, keeps a roof over our heads, it allows us to do things we want to do, it allows us to have nice holidays, buy the things we want, whatever. And it might be that, so finance is 10 out, that's a 10. But at the moment, I feel like I'm at a 1. And so what it does, it helps you look at all these different areas, and then you can start to make goals. So I say, right, I want to improve my finances. That's quite a wide goal. It's like, what does that mean? So then you work out, well, what does it mean? What do I mean when I say I want to improve my finances? It might be saying, well, actually, do you know what? I don't feel prepared for retirement. So what I want to do, by the time I retire, I want to have X amount of money in my pension pot. Or it might be, I want my mortgage paid off by the time I'm 65. And then it's like, right, how are you going to do that? So then you can build these smaller incremental goals. And then you have, once you have that, you can then start to work towards them. You can start ticking off as you're making these progresses in each part of your life. So the coaching, the counselling, medication, it's all been going on. So and I'm doing stuff outside of that as well, in terms of reading, trying to improve my health, working on the things that are coming out of the counselling and coaching, looking at where I want to put my energies, and what's my priorities. So it's been a really busy, definitely busy 2 or 3 months, with lots of, I would say, doing the work, doing the deep work that's involved. And then obviously, I've got the stuff with Angela. We have paused that slightly, particularly over Christmas and that, because both of us have got so much going on, in terms of, well, we like to describe it as there's things we need to do before we're ready for the next part of our journey together, because we do have big plans. So keep an eye out on those. But we were aware that we needed to do some really important work on ourselves before we were ready to take on that, or move to the next stage. So we've both been, working really hard, doing really important things. And the reason why I'm sort of talking about, counselling, coaching, deep work, is because I wouldn't have done any of this if I hadn't been on the medication. So I was ill. I don't know if it was flu or something, and I was ill for a good couple of weeks, and for like 2 or 3 days of that, I was I had like 40-degree temperature. It was like proper, not man flu, it was proper flu. See, my voice went high then. Proper flu. And I came off of medication for a couple of days because I was just like, I'm not doing anything, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just lying here. And in those 2 days, my wife, putting aside the fact that I wasn't very well, and we never are best when we're not very well, but my wife, she pointed out to me, it's like, you're getting really agitated, you're getting very snappy, very kind of cross quite quick, very impatient. And I was like, I sort of reflected, I was like, yeah, I have actually. I didn't feel like doing anything, didn't feel like doing things, and sorry about that, little knock on the door from the youngest. So I've lost my train of thought now completely. That's it. So I'd taken a couple of days off medication, and I noticed that there was such a difference, in terms of, again, I've got to say I was ill, but I've been ill before, and I know how I can get. But there was a real difference in how I was reacting to the environment around me. I was getting overwhelmed much quicker, and so I went back on the medication, and bang, straight away, much calmer, much more measured. Obviously still felt awful, with the illness, but I just felt more measured, much more in control. And I've started a couple of courses, to develop my skills, and I've surprised myself because I've never been very good. I've never perceived myself as being very good at, particularly online courses, in terms of achieving deadlines, understanding what's being asked. I've always struggled to interpret questions. Sometimes I read too much into it, sometimes not enough. But these courses, I've been doing them, and really, I've been going through them. And what's really important is that I found the way that works for me to do them. Always used to be, I think, oh, you have to do it in this way. They want you to do it in this way. Doesn't work for me. So what I do is I go, okay, what is going to work for me? How can I do this? Right. I'm going to set myself, I'm going to sit and I'm going to do this for an hour. I'm going to do this bit. And when I've done that bit, I can stop. If I need to Google something, I'll Google it. Googling, I used to think Google, like looking up the answer or looking up information was cheating. I don't know why. It's like, how do we know anything? We know things by reading, asking, looking up, researching. But again, that goes back to school. You weren't allowed to do anything. It's like, it was almost like everything you had to already know or remember. You had to remember everything. With an ADHD brain, short-term memory is shot. We could be having a conversation, and by the time you turn around and walked away, I've forgotten half of what it was we were talking about. So, in a classroom setting, never did very well. So it's important. I found, decided that, I have ADHD. I have to find a way to make these things work for me, and that's the approach I'm taking to everything now. It's like, what's important to me? What do I need? How is this going to be better for me? And if that means saying no to invitations, because I know that I'm not going to enjoy it, because there's going to be too many people, it's going to be too loud, it's going to be too whatever. I'm going, do you know what? I appreciate it, but it's not for me. And it's the same as like, whether it's working out, it's like, oh, go, I'd love to go for a run or be one of those people who loves the gym. I don't love the gym. And that's why I struggle to go, because I don't love it. I'd much rather be doing something outside. So, funny enough, chatting to somebody the other day, talking about this, sparked off another idea. Oh, what about fitness for people like me who struggle, whether it be ADHD or otherwise, who struggle in those sort of environments, who'd rather be outdoors, who'd rather do something with like-minded people. So that's another idea. And I think that's the thing that I've learned most, or maybe not most, but one of the key things that I've learned since getting my diagnosis, learning about it, beginning to understand it, and again start medication, is that it's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to focus on what your needs are before anybody else's, and that has a knock-on effect into mental health. People with anxiety, depression, whatever, they don't focus on themselves. They don't put themselves first, and so more disturbances. That's living in a busy household, isn't it? And it's very hard to get time just to sit in a quiet space and record these things. But yeah, as I was saying, it really is important and absolutely okay to put yourself first. Meet your own needs before you try to meet the needs of others. There's lots of things, lots of sayings around it. You can't pour from an empty cup is one example. But it's absolutely true. If you're not at your best, how can you give your best to others? Or give yourself in the way that you want to? So by putting yourself first and focusing on what's important to you and what you need to be the best version of yourself, it's not selfish, it's crucial. And I think, I don't know if it's just a British thing, but we don't, I don't know, I think we often, view people who do that, who put themselves first, who are quite forward in saying, look, I don't want to do that, or I need this space, or I need to do this, or I need to do this for me right now. I can't help you right now, but when, as soon as I can, I will, but I need to focus on me at the moment. We tend to, brand these people as selfish. And it's really not. I just think they've just got a greater understanding, or they're at that place where they're just comfortable and know that they need to put themselves before others in order to then be the best version of themselves for those around them. So that's something that I'm definitely working on doing more of, and and I advise anybody, I'd offer that advice to anybody, is do what you need to do. I know that it's not easy, and yes, sometimes there are exceptions to that, but and it's super easy to come up with excuses as to why you shouldn't, but that's what they are, they're excuses. Because we don't want to upset anybody, we don't want to, think people hate us, or we don't want to feel rejected by people, because some people will see it negatively. But that's on them, that's not on you. So it is important. I know that I can't make the growth and the achieve the things I want to achieve if I don't invest in myself and if I don't put myself first. But that doesn't mean that I'm neglecting everything else around me. It just has to take a bit more of a back seat than the things I have to do now. Being on the medication and having that kind of clear kind of thinking space, the limiting the distractions, and limiting the overwhelm has really benefited me in that way. I think definitely the last quarter of last year has seen really significant changes for me, and I can probably go back to, I don't know, maybe August, when things started happening, little connections being made, starting titration, and it's those moments, it's from that everything else is building on. And it's yes, it's not been easy all the time, but there is overall, if we charted, if we created a chart, it would look like this, but I could see that there's dips along the way, but I've made progress from here to where I am now here. So that's important. That's important to be able to reflect and review on what you've done, what you've achieved. That's where we are now. It's January the 1st now, and I'm not going to say new year, new me. I'm going to say new year, same me, but I'm going to make continuous improvements, or continuous efforts to improve areas of my life. Not everybody's in a good place at this time of year. A lot of people think that they've got to make these grand resolutions, which for most of us fail by, I don't know, second week of January. Be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself. If you're in a position where you're able to, give yourself a small goal, something small. It doesn't have to be big. Something that relates to you, something that I don't know, it might be that, you realise that you've become quite isolated, and you want to be a bit more social. Go and find a course that interests you. Go and find a club that interests you. Take along a friend. Don't feel you've got to do it all by yourself. Tell those around you what you want to do. Ask them for support. It's okay. It's okay to ask for support. They're your friends, they're your family, and if they are true friends and family members who love you, then they'll support you. This year, just try and make one or two small changes, because from the small changes, bigger changes come. But ultimately, be kind to yourself, look after yourself, and just be kind.